everyone, welcome to Money9. Today we'll talk about cryptocurrencies and how to invest in cryptocurrencies rationally. On Crypto Classroom today, we are joined by Aishwarya Gupta. He is a research analyst at BNB Analytics. He will help us be a rational crypto investor. Welcome, Mr. Gupta. Cryptocurrencies are a new craze now. Yeah, and if we talk about investing in stock market, then we know that this is a stock and it has profits and losses. We know that we are investing in a business model. But when we talk about cryptocurrencies, then exactly where are we investing? What's the investment rationale here?
See, cryptocurrencies is just one word that has been given to the whole ecosystem. It has over 10,000 cryptocurrencies listed right now. And that is not exactly where everyone can go and give it a single rationale. It has various subcategories. Like for example, the first category you can say is as stable coins. So stable coins are something which are reflected, or there's a digital representation of maybe any other fiat. Like for example, US dollars, so USDT, USDC, BUSD. All these are just digital representation of the US dollar, and they are pegged to the dollar. So what is behind them? The dollar is behind them. Then there are other cryptocurrencies like Paxos. So that is backed by gold. So whatever you're buying, you're just buying the digital representation of gold. So that is one category. Second category is basically where it is used as a medium of exchange or collection of fees. So the example here could be Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano. So all these platforms are basically, you can compare them to, let's say, a microeconomy. Let's assume it like a country which is there. So in a country, what you will do? In a country, if you have to do the transactions, you will go out and you will do the transactions with INR. You will need to have those INR. Now, when you have those INR currencies with you, it does not mean that you own any part of India. It just means that it's being used as a medium of exchange. And as the economy flourishes, as the economy moves up, what will happen is we will go out and we will the value of that the currency that you're using, that will strengthen. So that is another type, which is like a medium of exchange. So here you're not owning any particular project. Now then there are other tokens like governance tokens are there, or so these tokens are something where you are actually participating in the whole day. If you want, you can participate in the day-to-day activities, propose new improvements in that token, or you can go out and vote and all those things. So that is governance. And what happens here is basically as the protocol flourishes, the reserves of those protocols increase, or the mechanisms that have been created on that. So that accrues value to that particular token. So that way those tokens go up. So actually what you're buying will depend upon which category you're going in, whether it's a utility token, like I told you about Ethereum and Bitcoin. The utility is you're paying the fees and everything. Then if it is a security token, then actually security tokens are just like equity shares, where you are actually owning a part of that business. So that could be a security token. So it depends upon which category you want to go.
So utility, as in what are we transacting here? Are we buying maybe coffee? Exactly what sort of stuff can we buy? What utility do we have with Bitcoin or Ether? And similarly, what governance? I mean, exactly what security are we buying when we talk about it?
See, when we talk about what exactly are we buying or where it is being utilized, so if I take the example of Ethereum, let's say. So Ethereum is just like a global supercomputer or a base layer, just like the internet. Now on Ethereum, there are various projects that run. Like for example, if you talk about Uniswap, if you talk about Aave, if you talk about any other such tokens which are out there like USDT. So all these tokens are running on top of a blockchain, which is Ethereum blockchain. Now, in order to run on that system, what you need to do is you need to pay fees for running your systems on that Ethereum blockchain. Now, this fees is paid in the form of Ether, or you can say Ethereum in a way. So that is where the utility is. So I am utilizing this to make the payments for any application that has been deployed on this particular Ethereum. So as more and more projects grow, as more and more projects come into this ecosystem and they start to work or run, just imagine the use case, the payment that you have to do for fees is going to increase. And if that is going to increase, that means its demand is going to increase. And if the demand is increasing, so that obviously means that the value of that token is going to increase. So that is where I go out and say that this is the utility for Ethereum. If I talk about Bitcoin, let's say today Bitcoin has real world use cases. You can go out and you can buy stuff from Bitcoin. There are online portals where you can actually go and do shopping. You can buy as small as a coffee, exactly like you said. So you can make a payment for a coffee
in
as well
some
in the terms of
countries.
Bitcoin.
Hmm.
Yeah, in
But
some
what is
countries.
Dogecoin then?
Exactly.
Uh, Dogecoin is also quite popular.
See,
So, what utility do we have behind this crypto?
See, sometimes that this is completely my personal view. Dogecoin, as of now, I don't feel it has any utility. The thing behind what is deriving Dogecoin is basically the tweets of renowned people out there on Twitter, and it's basically what. See, what happens is when we do not understand any technology, when we do not go out and feel that okay, I know enough, we tend to follow the leaders. We tend to follow if a leader is saying okay, this is something which I think is promising, so that is something that you go out and buy. And even when you talk about what exactly is the utility that Elon Musk sees in it, so recently he had you can say conference of B Word where he said, "I love dogs." And sometimes what happens is the thing that we feel is never going to come, that sometimes crops up and becomes a national thing. So that is something which he said is the rationale behind why he likes so much dogs. So that's something that is there. I personally don't feel there is any value until and unless they come out and show an actual use.
Okay, so tell our viewers if they were to select create a portfolio of a cryptocurrency, then what sort of currency should they choose and what's the process? How do they go about choosing cryptocurrencies?
See, whenever you are going out and whenever you are trying to find out which cryptocurrencies to choose, I would always go out and suggest to bifurcate your portfolio, whatever you are. So there are two things that I would say. The first is bifurcate your portfolio into blue chips, into stable coins, and into risky proposition sets. So what happens is the blue chip, basically the top 20 cryptocurrencies, which have been there for almost a good amount of time and established their dominance in the market. So I can talk about Bitcoin is there, Ethereum is there, Binance Coin is there. So all these tokens, or you can say Uniswap is there. So all these tokens, they have established their dominance in the market, and they are now being even preferred by some of the institutions. So that gives them a level of security. Okay, this is something which might not give that 100% or 200% or 500% return to you, but they are going to stay. Why? Because mostly it has been stressed that the organizations, various institutions have betted on them, so they have done their due diligence. So that is something which you usually should have at least 40 to 50% of your portfolio. The next 30% is something which I go out and say stable coins. Why I say stable coins is basically because of very small reason. In India, if you're someone from India, these cryptocurrency markets are not right now where you can go out and say they are perfect. So there are a lot of arbitrage opportunities, or when there's a huge sell pressure or buy pressure on the market, these coins fluctuate. They are not equivalent to $1 and they fluctuate. So you kind of buy them at a little lower price and you can sell them at a little higher price. And what happens is even if suddenly the market crashes, they won't crash along with that. So they will still be there. So that will hold that solid value for your portfolio. So that is the second point. And the third is where you can go out and check some risky projects, let's say, which are upcoming and where you want to invest. You feel that it is a very good proposition. Now, how do you know or how do you find out whether a proposition that you're about to invest in is something which is going to be good? So, see, basic, it's just like if you go to a place where you eat burger, it's just like if you have the perfect ingredients, you're going to love your burger. But if you have too much salt in your burger, it's not going to give you the same feeling of happiness when you eat it. So this ingredients that you talk about is basically, let's say, how the demand and supply of the token is placed. So if there is a huge demand for a particular token and then there is a supply in the market, that will give you a very good price action in the long term. Simply, I can take the example of Bitcoin. Its supply is something which is limited to 21 million Bitcoins. So it's not going to go out and tomorrow it will be 44 million. So they have a clear monetary policy which says 21 million coins. Now, when you have something whose supply is fixed, but it's demand because more and more institutions, more and more people are going and adopting and buying Bitcoin. Its demand is increasing. Now, if the demand is going to increase, the supply is either stagnant, means fixed, or it is, let's say, little bit inflationary or even deflationary. So deflationary means whatever coins that are there in the market, they're going to reduce ultimately. So Binance coin is one such coin where the supply. So what they do is every quarter, the company, Binance company, they go out and they churn out some tokens, and from their treasury, they burn it. Burn basically means they don't go and light it up with a matchstick. They will just go out and they will render it useless for any more circulation. So you cannot use those coins anymore to make payments or to circulate. So that is the second. So if your demand is increasing but your supply is maybe fixed or reducing, so that's a very good thing. The second is what exactly is the use case that they are trying to create. So whether it is something which is needed for the blockchain community or not. So to I just to crack like a joke. So if there's a coin that comes in and says if you subscribe to us, and what we will go and do for you is we will deliver milk for you through blockchain. Now, no money can move through blockchain, but actually you cannot move milk through blockchain. That's impossible. So that means it does not have any use case, but just because they are riding the hype of blockchain. So the use case, you have to find out what exactly is the use case. The third factor that I particularly see is, which is a very major factor, is how much is the team going out and how much is the team trying to build, how many people are committed, because all these cryptocurrencies are public projects. They're not private projects where you can go out and say, okay, this is my project, I will not entertain anyone else. All these projects are open source. Their codes are uploaded on websites like GitHub, where you can check, where you can go out and where you can invest. You can see what exactly is the project about. You can propose new changes as well. So there are some procedures through which you can do that. So that is something where you find out how many people are actually wanting to build this. If there are problems, are there other people who are trying to build it, or they've just left it, right? That they don't care anymore. So these are the three major factors that I particularly see. Social sentiments add to this, like the third one only, the social sentiments, how are people feeling? And there are various tools also as well on on these social activities, how much the coin is varying. So these are the three things where you go out and you check. These are the things which are a must if you're investing in Bitcoin.
So there are different kind of cryptocurrencies with different use cases. So investors should create a crypto portfolio and diversify among different sorts of cryptocurrencies. That is the way to go about it. And when they have created a portfolio, then what should they expect out of it? What return expectations to keep in mind? And if they are investing, so what time horizon should they look at?
See, I'll tell you what I do because that is something would be the most relative thing for this. See, whenever I am investing, it is just like I'm investing in the form of an SIP. Like I do that SIP in the mutual funds. Similarly, I'm doing an SIP into these cryptocurrencies. Expecting a immediate gain is something, or just investing out of peer pressure is something which I've seen a lot of people do, and that is one of the biggest mistakes. See, cryptocurrencies are not predictable. They whatever the market, how the market is going to behave tomorrow, we cannot go out and say 100% for sure that tomorrow market is going to go up. And often what I have seen is people will wait. The market is going down, it will go more down, it will go more down. And ultimately what will happen is suddenly there is a rebound, and there will be a state of fear that okay, we have missed the bus of the down rally, at least buy whatever price at this is at this point of time. And that is where they will go out and invest. And then suddenly what happens is later on again, if the prices fall, they feel like, oh my god, it's a loss, it's again going down and crap, and they will sell it up. And this is the retail, this is how the retail behaves. That's the state of FOMO. You will go out, you will buy at a higher price, it goes down, you will sell it up. So that is why the best strategy to invest into cryptocurrencies is invest for a time horizon of at least 5 to 10 years. If you are a daytime trader, you might get the 5%, 6% return on a daily basis. But for those people who do not want to invest like 7 hours or 8 hours a day, into cryptocurrency trading, the best way is to invest in the form of SIPs. Say if you have to invest, let's say 1 lakh rupees so don't invest that 1 lakh rupees just in a go. Divide that 1 lakh rupee into 5 chunks and invest in, let's say, every 1 month, 20,000 rupees, or split it every weekly if you are very excited to invest. But don't invest everything in just one go, because that is something where when the prices fall down, you are like, oh my God, I have lost all my money. It's a scam and I need to leave out. So this is something that you will feel. So invest systematically, do the rupee
And
cost
would
averaging,
you advise?
and
Would
that
you
is how
advise?
you invest.
Correct. And would you advise weekly SIP or monthly SIP? Because it's a volatile investment. Cryptocurrencies will rise by 30-40%,
See,
then fall by 30-40%. Then what's the way out?
See, I invest monthly, and I would go out and say invest monthly. Bi-weekly is also something that is the shortest time horizon one should see. The basic reason why I'm saying bi-weekly is because in 15 days, a lot of things tend to change in the market. So that is why bi-weekly is okay, but weekly I would not suggest, because weekly is something where price action or the dollar cost averaging will not give you a very good result. So bi-weekly or preferably monthly, like once in every month, you can do that.
And also, taxation is an important aspect with cryptocurrencies, and it's unregulated, and we have no idea whether it's a currency or it's a commodity, exactly which form of investment it is. So if people were to calculate their taxes, then how do they pay taxes on it? By slab rate, or where exactly will cryptocurrencies fall?
See, when you talk about taxation, there are no particular laws that acknowledge cryptocurrencies as anything. But the Indian law or the taxation law that has been made is made in a way where if you are accruing any income and you're living in India, that means you have to pay the taxes. So by that condition, you are liable to pay the taxes. Now, there are two ways in which you can pay the taxes. The one way that I use is basically so like we have two ways of accounting. One is like when you receive the cash, or mercantile or cash basis of accounting, where actually when you receive the money, you pay the taxes. The second is accrual based. Accrual is basically as and when the money is getting accrued or everything, you pay the taxes based on that. Most of the companies follow the second version, but for cryptocurrencies, I go out and I take the stance of the first one, which is cash basis. I mean, the basic reason why I choose this is because what happens is, unlike shares, you can buy one crypto from another crypto. So you won't be needing INR every time you want to buy any crypto. So that makes it very difficult to assess the prices at which the cryptocurrencies have been bought. And now to add more to this trouble, what happens is when you are transferring cryptocurrencies from one exchange, which is in India, to another exchange, which is in US or maybe somewhere else, the prices which they take as the base rate, or from where they're deriving those prices, they're also different. So that makes it even more difficult to go out and actually find out what profits did you make. So that is why once you go out and invest your INR, that is your investment amount. And as soon as you withdraw your money, or as soon as you realize INR, as soon as you sell your cryptocurrency, and if your sale is in INR, that means it's a taxable event. You are now liable to pay taxes. So that way, whatever income that you have accrued on that sale, minus the cost of the purchase, is something which you go out and pay the taxes for. So that is the way which I particularly adopt, and you can pay the taxes under the head of business income, or you can also pay a flat rate at 30% in your other incomes as well.
So, Mr. Gupta, any last word for our viewers on cryptocurrencies as they start their investment?
I would just like to say that if you're wanting to invest into cryptocurrencies, try to understand what exactly you're going out and doing. Do not go out and just invest because you feel that your neighbor has done it or your uncle has done it, because ultimately this is a game which changes overnight. And until and unless you know how the game is played, every day you will feel uncomfortable investing into cryptocurrency.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. So now you know the tricks and trade of investing in cryptocurrencies. You have to create a crypto portfolio. You have to diversify among different kinds of cryptocurrencies, and do focus on tax part also. To watch more such videos, keep watching Money9. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Also visit our website money9.com in Hindi and English. Thank you for joining in.